Don't worry mga kapatid. More next Sunday. Okay, let's have 2 to 3 minutes break. Then we'll give the time to Miss Lien.
Two months LD.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, Miss Lien.
And good evening. Before we start, let us hear from Doc Laig. Can you render us the opening prayer?
Okay po. Ama namin, nasa langit ka, sambahin po ang pangalan mo at sa gabi pong ito, kami po ay mag-aaral muli. Sana po ay patnubayan mo bawat isa sa amin at ibigay yung kaalaman na gusto naming makamit, O Diyos. Salamat po sa iyong pagbigay ng knowledge sa bawat isa sa amin. Ito po hiningi namin sa pangalan ng anak mong si Jesus. Amen.
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much. Now let us, Sir Moises, can you please play the video?
A few months ago, I posted a video on this channel entitled Writing Systems of the World. In that video, I talked about the 5 main categories of writing systems, as well as the fact that many of the scripts used in the world today evolved from a single source.
Rewind po.
A few months ago, I posted a video on this channel entitled Writing Systems of the World. In that video, I talked about the 5 main categories of writing systems, as well as the fact that many of the scripts used in the world today evolved from a single source, the ancient Phoenician abjad. I also mentioned that a very old script from India, known as Brahmi, may have evolved from Aramaic, which, if true, would mean that all of the modern South Asian scripts are also part of this family tree. Well, since posting that video, I've received many comments from viewers questioning this theory. First of all, many people asked why I didn't mention Sanskrit, considering that Sanskrit is one of the world's oldest languages and is the basis for most of the languages used in North India today. Also, several commenters claimed that because Sanskrit is around 4,000 years old, but Aramaic is only 3,000 years old, there's no way that Indian scripts could have evolved from Middle Eastern scripts. So today I'm going to respond to these comments and explore the question, how old is Sanskrit? Okay, the first thing you need to know is that a language and a writing system are two different things. A language is a method of communication that can be either spoken or written. In most cases, though, human languages originate first in a spoken form and only later in a written form. A writing system, on the other hand, is a set of symbols that can be used to represent the spoken sounds of a language. Sometimes the name of a language and the name of the writing system used to write that language are the same. So, for example, the Greek language is usually written using Greek letters. But sometimes the two things are different. For example, the Hindi language is written using Devanagari letters. Russian is written using Cyrillic letters, and English is written using Latin letters. And one writing system can be used to write many different languages. So don't confuse a language with a writing system. Which brings me to Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a language. It is not a writing system. In order to write Sanskrit, you need to use a writing system. Nowadays, Devanagari is most often used, but the earliest known writing system used to write Sanskrit was Brahmi. This is why I talked about Brahmi and Devanagari in my video about writing systems, but I did not talk about Sanskrit. But let's talk a little more about Sanskrit now. The oldest surviving example we have of the Sanskrit language is the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is a collection of ancient Hindu hymns. Scholars have concluded that the Rig Vedas were composed somewhere around the year 1500 BCE. So that would be approximately 3,500 years ago. Experts are able to come up with dates like this through linguistic analysis, which involves comparing a bunch of related languages and figuring out how they are actually branches originating from a single original language. In this case, we know that Sanskrit is one of the many branches that evolved from Proto-Indo-European, which happens to be the ancestor of English as well. Anyway, we know that the northern Indian languages diverged from Iranian languages around 4,000 years ago, and that's why Vedic Sanskrit is dated to a little bit after this. And I should point out that whatever language was spoken before the divergence can't really be called Sanskrit. It's more accurately called Proto-Indo-Iranian. So once again, let me state that the Rig Veda was composed in Sanskrit around 3,500 years ago. Now, the problem with statements like this is that they lead some people to assume that somewhere in India, probably in a museum, is a very dusty 3,500-year-old book which is the original version of the Rig Veda, and that all modern copies are based off of that original. But here's the thing. Note that I said that the Rig Veda was composed 3,500 years ago. I didn't say that it was written 3,500 years ago. As far as we know, the Rig Veda was originally passed down orally only. So 3,500 years ago, people were speaking Sanskrit, but they weren't writing in Sanskrit. If they were, no copies have survived, and therefore we have no way of knowing what writing system they used. The oldest physical copy of the Rig Veda we have today is actually only about 600 years old, and the oldest written examples we have of anything written in Sanskrit are only about 2,100 years old. These include the Hatibada Gosandi inscriptions, which were carved into stone using the Brahmi script. So they date to around 100 BCE, and that's about as far back as written Sanskrit goes. Now, we actually have examples of the Brahmi script that are even older than this. The Edicts of Ashoka, which date to around 250 BCE. But the Edicts of Emperor Ashoka were not written in Sanskrit. Remember, a writing system can be used to record more than one language. In this case, the language is Prakrit. By the time of Ashoka, Vedic Sanskrit was only used in religious settings, and a newer version of Sanskrit, known as Classical Sanskrit, was only used by the upper class. Among common everyday folk, Sanskrit had evolved into many different vernacular languages called Prakrits, and Ashoka chose one of these everyday languages for his edicts. So we know that Brahmi dates to at least 250 BCE, but we don't have any surviving examples of writing in India before this date. Well, there is the Indus Valley script, but I'll come back to that. On the other hand, we have inscriptions in Aramaic that go back as far as 500 BCE. So based on the dates, it is possible that the Brahmi script evolved from the Aramaic script. But did it? Well, the honest answer is we simply don't know. In my video on writing systems, I did not actually claim that Brahmi definitely came from Aramaic. I simply mentioned it as a possibility. This is because it is one of the major theories that have been put forward by people who study such things. And in a lot of ways, the theory does make sense. Just prior to the time of Ashoka, contact between North India and the Middle East had greatly increased, thanks to a guy named Alexander the Great. This is also why Buddhist sculptures from this period suddenly start looking a lot like classical Greek sculptures. The Greeks obviously spoke Greek and used the Greek alphabet, but in Persia, which is right next to North India, the Aramaic language and writing system was still used. In fact, Ashoka wrote some of his edicts in Greek and Aramaic using the Greek and Aramaic scripts. So we definitely know that Indian scholars at the time were familiar with them. And then there's the physical similarities. Some of the Brahmi letters look very similar to the Aramaic letters, and the sound values match pretty closely as well. But on the other hand, Brahmi has many features that do not correspond to Aramaic and other Phoenician-descended scripts, like Greek and Latin. The most important being that it is an abugida rather than abjad or alphabet. If you want to know the difference between these three things, you'll have to watch my writing systems video. Another difference between Brahmi and Aramaic is that Brahmi has way more consonants. This is because Sanskrit and its descendants, like Hindi, have aspirated and non-aspirated versions of most consonants. I'm pretty bad at pronouncing the differences, but trust me, they are there. And whereas the letters in most abjads and alphabets have a seemingly random order, Brahmi and the many South Asian scripts that descend from it are arranged very logically. For example, all the k and g sounds go together because they are all made with the back of the tongue, and all the p and b sounds go together because they are all made with the lips. So even if Brahmi did borrow a few letter shapes from Aramaic, it's clear that whoever developed the script added a lot of new features to it based on unique aspects of the Sanskrit and Prakrit languages. So if Brahmi didn't come from Aramaic, where did it come from? Well, there are three possibilities. One is that it was simply a brand new invention, sort of like the Hangul alphabet in Korea. Second is that it descends from an unknown script that didn't survive, perhaps because it was mostly written on perishable surfaces like leaves instead of on stone. Third is that it might be a distant descendant of the Indus Valley script. The Indus Valley script dates from around the same time as Egyptian hieroglyphics and Sumerian cuneiform. But unfortunately, unlike Egyptian and Sumerian, it has never been deciphered. The Indus Valley civilization flourished around 2500 BCE, but then it completely disappeared and was replaced with Vedic civilization. It's likely that the Indus Valley people spoke a language unrelated to Sanskrit. However, it is possible that they did have some sort of influence on later Indian societies. So how old is Sanskrit? Well, the spoken version dates back to at least 1500 BCE, but the written version is no older than about 250 BCE. That means that the writing systems used in India today could, in fact, be distantly related to other Phoenician-descended writing systems such as Latin, Hebrew, and Greek. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching.
All right, thank you so much for that. I guess everybody heard the meaning and why is your professor is named Lien Sanskrit. Last time, somebody defined who Lien is and what does Lien means. And now I guess you know why did your professor came up with that name. All right. Sir Moises, can you please share the screen, the PowerPoint? Can you go to the first page first? Page 1 first. All right. So this is a combination of the Advanced Biblical English and the Biblical English Grammar. So this is your PowerPoint. I guess we only have limited meetings, so I happen to concise our topic for tonight. All right, please turn it on the second page. So this is the setting. It should be 7 to 7:45, but we started, I guess, 7:35. So we are 30 minutes behind. So this is the regular students class. If there are graduating students around, you're also welcome. Anyway, this is the topic here is just in one book, and it is just sliced into 2. Okay, so the other half would be for the fast trackers. So this is our lesson. Can you now turn to slide 22, Sir Moises? Okay, so somebody asked if we have a book on this. So this is the book. And this is coming from Dukraja. This is the recommended book, The Complete English Grammar Rules. As you can see on the other picture on your right, there are different versions. Sorry for bad English, sorry for my poor language, pardon me for my poor choice of words. They mean the same, but they were written or they are spoken in different forms. So it's up to you how will you use your words in English, because soon when you graduate with limbs, I'm sure that you will be also part. I'm hoping that you will also be part of the institution, and we will be dealing with different nationalities. So we will be talking with them in English. So that's why, I guess that's the reason why it is included in our curriculum, the biblical English grammar. Okay, next slide. All right, so biblical English grammar. This is for the English regular students. We will no longer have the interaction because we have only limited time. I guess some of you submitted their homeworks, some of you haven't. I suggest that everybody please submit your homework so that we can rate you, okay? All right, English grammar. Grammar refers to the way words are used, classified, and structured together to form coherent, written or spoken communication. This guide takes a traditional approach to teaching English grammar, breaking the topic into 3 fundamental elements: parts of speech, inflection, and syntax. Each of these is a discrete individual part, but they are all intrinsically linked together in meaning. Next slide, please. All right, I'm sure everybody already knows what parts of speech is. So let me just read this. In the first part of the guide, we will look at the basic components of English words. The parts of speech are the categories to which different words are assigned based on their meaning, structure, and function in a sentence. We'll look in great detail at the 7 main parts of speech. During our elementary and high school, and some of you who are older, we have 8 parts. We have the 8 parts of speech. But here in this book, it says we have the 7 main parts of speech, which are nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and conjunctions, as well as other categories of words that don't easily fit in with the rest, such as particles, determiners, and gerunds. By understanding the parts of speech, we can better understand how and why we structure words together to form sentences. Next. All right, so what is inflection? Okay, it is defined here, inflection. Although the parts of speech provide the building blocks for English, another very important element is inflection, the process by which words are changed in form to create new specific meanings. So here you can see on the picture. Can you see the picture? Can you make it? Is this the biggest? Can you see it? Pwede pa ba yung mapalaki, Sir Moises?
Hindi na ma'am, ito na po yung...
Todo na siya. Hindi ko siya mabasa. All right, so as you can, but you can read the word, right? The word is perform. So it becomes, it changes, right? Nagiging performs, nagiging performing, nagiging performed. So, natatransform natin yung word. Hindi nagbabago yung main word or yung root word. Iba lang ang form niya, pero verb pa rin siya. So that's how you use inflection. So let us, for example, the word build. That's the main word. So it can be builds, building. I am building a puzzle right now. And then performed. I have built my project in science last year, like that. Okay, next slide. Now, there are two main categories of inflection: conjugation and declension. Conjugation refers to the inflection of verbs. So, verb lang yung pwede nating, okay. Sorry, conjugation refers to the inflection of verbs. Yeah, correct. So, as you can see in the picture, conjugated verbs. I bake, and then I am baking, and I have baked. So the main verb is bake, okay? And then while declension refers to the inflection of nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and adverb. So si conjugation, verb lang yung pwede niyang i-inflect. While ang declension, you can inflect nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and adverbs. So at the lower picture, what is a boy? Boy is a noun, right? And then boy's apostrophe S, as I'm sure everybody knows that, it's possessive. For example, whose handkerchief is this? It's the boy's handkerchief. So meaning the boy owns the handkerchief. So that's how you do inflection with nouns. And then if it functions as an indirect object, boy or to the boy. For example, I am giving this handkerchief to the boy. So that's an indirect object. And then if it functions as a direct object, so the boy. Who owns the handkerchief? The boy. And then if it is a prepositional phrase, like I am with the boy. I am with the boy, like that. So that's prepositional phrase. So it says here, whenever we change a verb from the present tense to the past tense, for example, we are using conjugation. Likewise, when we make a noun plural to show that there is more than one of it, we are using declension. Next slide. Syntax. So what is syntax? As you see on the picture, it's defined easily. Syntax is the part of grammar that establish all the rules that preside the arrangement of words in a sentence. So, syntax ang tawag niya pagka ang pinag-uusapan ay arrangement ng words in a sentence. Another, syntax provides some basic rules so we can create sentences using the word order. And then the next, syntax is very important because it helps us to use the language in a proper way. So there are some basic rules of syntax in English. Every sentence needs a subject and a verb. So hindi siya matatawag na sentence pag wala siyang subject or pag wala siyang verb. Okay? And then subject comes first and then verb comes second. So if it's talking about how to arrange the words in a sentence, that is all right. We'll no longer read the long definition. It is summarized in the picture. Next, please. All right, parts of speech. The parts of speech are the primary categories of words according to their function in a sentence. English has 7 main parts of speech. We'll look at a brief overview of each below. Continue on to their individual chapters. All right. Okay, next. Ito na ba yun? All right. So nouns. Everybody knows nouns. simplest way on how to define nouns is nouns are name words. So everything around you that has a name, that's noun. Okay, so I will be asking you to, for your final test na ba? So if it's final na next Sunday, I will be asking you to create a sentence coming from the book of Kings or the book of Chronicles, and then you identify the nouns. All right. Okay, so nouns are words that identify or name people, places, or things. Nouns can function as the subject of a clause or sentence, an object of a verb, or an object of a preposition. Words like cat, book, table, girl, and plane are all nouns. Next. I know that everybody already knows this. This is just a review, so we don't have to explain much further. So pronouns from the word noun. So this is to substitute for us to be able to make our writings, essays look good or interesting. We don't use redundant words. Even though you're talking about yourself, you don't want your name be always mentioned in every sentence that you create in your paragraph. So that's the use of pronouns. For example, I'll introduce myself. My name is Miss Lien Sanskrit. Lien Sanskrit came from India. Lien Sanskrit teaches English. So it's kind of boring if you keep on hearing the same words over and over again. So you should use pronouns. It's like, my name is Lien Sanskrit. I'm from India. I have been an English teacher for quite a long time. So like that, you use pronouns to be able to make your paragraph interesting. Okay, next please. Verbs. We all know that verbs are action words. So yun lang po yun. Everything that has an action, it's called verbs. But there are also verbs that are doesn't require action or any movement, just like love. I love reading books. So you cannot see the action, but you know it. There's some action that is going on, but it's not visible. So everything that is an action or a feeling, that's verb. Okay, next. Adjectives. Adjectives are modifiers or kung sa baba parang makeup, nagpapaganda. It describes nouns and pronouns. So if you describe, for you to just easily remember if it's an adjective, think of your crush or think of your spouse, your loved ones. So how do you describe your loved ones? So that's adjective. Everything that you will tell about your loved ones, that's adjective. All right, next. Adverbs. It is also a modifier, but it describes an adjective, a verb, and another adverb. It answers the question how. Let's say, my wife is beautiful. My wife is wearing a beautiful dress. So beautiful describes the dress. So beautiful is an adjective. dress is a noun. If it describes the noun, that's an adjective. And let's try to, my wife is wearing a beautiful dress proudly or with pride. So if it describes on how that the wife wears the dress, it describes the adjective, then it is an adverb. Okay. If it describes the noun or pronoun, it's adjective. But if it's not a noun, it's not a pronoun, then that's adverb. That's just how you can easily detect if it's an adverb or if it's an adjective. Okay, next. Prepositions from the word position. So that's just how you can easily recognize preposition. Where did you put the book? It's under the table, on top of the table. Where can I find the school? It's in between the two fast food. It's in between Jollibee and McDonald's. So it's position. Anything that describes position, that's preposition. Okay, next. Conjunctions. As you can see here, the book of the Old Testament and then the book of the New Testament. Are we going to, do you consider Old Testament and New Testament separate books? They are not called Bible if it's only the New Testament. So they are Bible because there's the book of the Old Testament and there's the book of the New Testament. And so it's just an illustration that it connects. Conjunctions connect. Okay, what are the examples of conjunction? And, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. For example, I love to go to the mall, but I hate to go there if it's raining. So because you will encounter, you'll get wet if you go there. So there are two clauses that you connect to create one sentence. So these are the conjunctions: and, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. Okay, next. So there are other parts of speech. In addition to the 7 parts of speech above, there are several other groupings of words that do not neatly fit into one specific category. Particles, articles, determiners, gerunds, and interjections. So can you recall that interjections before, they are part of the interjections is one among the 8 parts of speech, but now it is included with this other parts of speech, because interjections are just that easy. They are just words with strong feelings. They are just expressions like, oh my gosh, like that. Lo and behold, or ouch. Everything that you have a strong feeling, wow, like that. And so maybe that's the reason why this book categorize interjections into this other parts of speech. Okay, next. Oh, we're done. So it's so easy, right? English is just easy. Okay, any question? Oh, after this, we will also have 15 minutes for the fast trackers. So I guess we will entertain questions after we're done. Okay. So now let's welcome the fast trackers. Sir Moises, can you please turn back, bring back, move backwards to the first, okay, first page. All right, fast trackers, graduating class, welcome. Also the regular students, you're welcome to be with us. Okay, so this is Advanced Biblical English prepared by your Professor Lien Sanskrit. And it says here, Jesus Christ, the beginning and the end. Okay, next. Next slide. So here it is. I guess we will be having 2 Sundays that with this same schedule. Can you bring it to the second page, please? I still have to explain. All right. Okay, so 7 to 7:45 is the regular students class, Biblical English Grammar, the 8 parts of speech, grammar, and syntax. And then 7:45 to 8:30, it's the fast trackers, Advanced Biblical English, the quick tips. Okay, so let's just continue with the quick tips. Okay, next. So this is the book. It's the Complete English Grammar. And the 2 books on your left, they are also grammar. I cannot send this to you because this is from Lasallian Language Center. I just wanted to let you know that I will be inserting some of the word or some of the lessons that is contained here on this mini booklet. All right, next. So there are 2 different title book, but of course 8 parts of speech is still the same. They don't change. There are just some modifications. Some book says it's 7 parts of speech, and then interjection is included with the others parts of speech. But the other book here, the blue book, this is for ESL learners. So what is ESL? ESL means English as a second language. So there are just some modifications or some special lessons emphasized so that an English student will be able to sound like a native English speaker. Okay, because there are Filipino English. Filipino English are sometimes when we use them, the English native speakers cannot understand. So we don't translate our language word for word. Okay, so that's how ESL is different with the other books. Okay, next. All right, it just introduces what's inside this Complete English all-in-one. Next. So this is our, this is where the quick tips came from. This is the English grammar, understanding the basics. Because I believe or I presume that all of us already knew the 8 parts of speech. So we just have to study the quick tips. Okay, next. All right, I know that we're done with quick tip 1.1 to 6.2. This is all about nouns. So what determines the noun? If if you can put the before it, then it's a noun. Or if you can put his before it, it's a noun. So if you put his or the before a word and it doesn't make sense, it becomes awkward, it sounds awkward, then it's not a noun. Okay, that's the summary of these tips. Okay, next. Now let's move to quick tip on verbs. Quick tip 7.1. If a word can have should in front of it and the phrase sounds complete, the word is a verb. Okay, so that's how you will be able to identify that the word is a verb. If you put should, for example, let's think of a word. Teach, should teach. So it doesn't sound awkward. So it's a verb. Teach is a verb. If I say beautiful, should beautiful, does it make sense? If it sounds awkward, then beautiful is not a verb. Okay. So quick tip 7.2. If a word can have to in front of it and the phrase sounds complete, it's a verb. So it uses these examples: to leave, to sail, to discover, to complain. What's my example before earlier? To love. So it's not awkward. So love is a verb. How about to beautiful? It sounds awkward, right? So beautiful is not a verb. And then quick tip 9.1. The forms of the irregular verb be are, am, are, is, was, were, be, been, being. So if you can use that, these are verbs, okay? Like she is teaching. She was, let's say, Dr. Peral was teaching earlier before Miss Lien Sanskrit enter the classroom. So the is and the are, the was, determines when the action took place. So these are the be forms of the verb. And are, is, was, were, be, been, being. So you will be able to detect, or you will be able to decipher when did the action happen, took place. Okay, so that's how you are going to determine the verb. Next, quick tip 9.2. If you can substitute a form of be for a verb and the meaning of the sentence is basically the same, the verb is probably being used as a linking verb. The verb be and its forms are also linking verbs. So it is also about this one. She is happy. Linking verbs are the verbs that links. Okay, so it's also a verb. The be form are this one with the 9.1, are, is, was, were. Sorry. Quick tip 9.3. If you can substitute a form of seem for a verb and the meaning of the sentence is basically the same, the verb is probably being used as a linking verb. It's like, you seem happy today. So if you seem, then, and it does make sense, then it functions as a linking verb. Okay, next slide. Quick tip 9.4. Linking verbs are followed or modified by adjectives, while action verbs are followed or modified by adverbs. So, determine yun lang na adjective siya kung siya ay linking verbs are followed. So after the linking verb, merong adjective. And then action verb siya followed or modified by adverbs. Pag nagsasalita naman tayo, hindi naman na natin kailangang i-identify na, teka, ginamit ko ba siyang adverb? Ginamit ko ba siyang adjective? So long as we know the basic definition, hindi na natin kailangang i-identify isa-isa yung mga words. Okay? Tip 10.1. Action verbs that act upon something are called transitive verbs. Action verbs that do not act upon something are called intransitive verbs. Ano lang siya? Transitive verbs are verbs that are dependent. Intransitive verbs can stand alone. It's like sing. So, pag sinabi kong I sing, alam nyo na yun, na kumanta ako. Pag sinabi kong I, meron kasing cannot stand alone eh. I will give. Pwede ko bang pag sinabi kong I will give, and then I stop there. So, hindi complete thought. So that's transitive verb. Okay. All right. Next quick tip 10.2. If a verb in any of its forms can be put in one of the following slots, it is transitive. Just like, what did you do? Who did you call? If a verb cannot be put in one of these slots, it is intransitive. So yun lang yung mga tip if it's transitive or intransitive. Dito naman pala i-define nila. Okay, quick tip 10.3. If a verb in one of its forms can be put in one of the following slots, it is transitive. He cooks something. He picks someone. Yeah. So those are transitive. Okay, next quick tip 10.4. If a verb in one of its forms can be put in the following slot, it is intransitive. He danced. So that's intransitive, meaning independent by itself. Quick tip 10.5. Some verbs can be either transitive, nagkamali sila, transitive or intransitive. Parehas transitive eh. This can occur in both of the following slots. He cooks something. He loves someone. He loves. He cooks. Yan. So merong mga verb na pwede siyang transitive, pwede rin siyang intransitive. 11.1. If you can substitute a single verb for a verb and the word following it, you probably have a phrasal verb. For example, you can say, she pointed out the truth to us. Or she showed the truth to us. So the phrase point out, that's a phrasal verb. Ang ibig sabihin ng point out, showed. Okay, she pointed out the truth to us. So that's a phrasal verb. Pero kung isang word lang ang kailangan mo, you can say, she showed the truth to us. Next, quick tip 11.2. If you can move a particle away from its verb, you have a phrasal verb. For example, since you can say both, she looked up the answer and she looked the answer up. Look up is a phrasal verb. Pag pwede mo siyang pagsamahin or pwede mong paghiwalayin, ito, magkasama sila, di ba? Looked up. She looked up the answer. Magkatabi yung look up. Pag pinaghiwalay mo siya, kung pwede pa rin siya, kung hindi siya mukhang awkward, she looked the answer up. So probably look up is a phrasal verb. Okay, next slide. So 8:30 na po, ano? Paano kaya yan? Is Sir Billy already there? Are we going to stop na ba? 8:30 is your review. Sir, can you, how many slides more? Madami pa, no?
Wala pa naman si Sir Billy.
Okay, so we'll just proceed. Kasi we started 7:30. So, sige, tuloy lang tayo. Pagka nandyan na si Sir Billy, please notify me. Okay, now let's proceed to the determiners. Quick tip 12.1. There are only 3 articles in English. The, and an. So, wala na po ba tayong confusion? When do we use the and when do we use a or an? Yung a or an, madali lang po siya kasi pag vowel yung katabi, for example, an apple. Vowel yung vowel si apple. So it's awkward if you say a apple, diba? It should be an apple. Or for example, if it's a book, you will say a book. It's awkward to say an book. I will give you an book. It's awkward. So if the word starts with a consonant, you will use a. If the word starts with a vowel, you will use an. Okay. And then when do we use the? For example, I have the book. What's the difference between I have the book and I have a book?
Definite yung the book.
Okay. A book, what does it mean?
Indefinite.
Okay. All right. So definite yung isa. Okay. A book, it can be any book, but the book, specific siya. For example, I said, oh, I found the book. So yun talaga yung hinahanap mo. Maaring nawala siya, tapos nakita mo siya. But when you say, I found a book, so meron ka lang isang random book na nakita. So that's the difference between the two. Okay, next, quick tip 13.1. There are only 4 demonstratives in English. These, that, these, and those. Demonstrative, meaning, paano ba yung demo? Demonstrate, tinuturo, pinapakita. So, ito lang yung mga panturo natin. This, pag malapit sa'yo, that, malayo. These, plural of these, of this. And those, malayo, plural. Those are my students. So, malayo sila. Pero pag malapit sila, these are my students. Pag isa lang, this is my student. Katabi ko lang siya. Pero pag malayo siya, that is my student. Next, diba, very easy lang ang English, diba? Quick tip 13.1. 14.1. The determiner possessive pronouns are my, your, his, her, its, our, their. So, pag narinig nyo yung mga ganitong words, ibig sabihin, possessive, you own it. Who owns the file? Him or his. That is his file. That is my file. That is your story. That is their house. So, those are the words that you have to use if you are pertaining to possession. Okay? It's wrong to say that is they house or that is I house. It should be my or his or her. Next, quick tip 15.1. Words of quantity, quantifiers can act as determiners and precede a noun. Some examples are all, some, several, and much. So, pag narinig na kakita kayo ng ganitong mga words, it means bilang siya. How many are absent? all. All are absent, or several. Some are absent, or how much money do you need? So that's quantity or quantifiers. Next, Unit 4, adjectives. So quick tip 16.1, if you can put a word between the and a noun, for example, the blank boy, then that word is an adjective. So madali lang naman yung adjective talaga but pag pwede mo siyang ilagay sa before ng noun, then it's an adjective. Next, Unit 5 is preposition. Quick tip 17.1. Prepositions are words usually small that typically indicate information about direction, location, or time. There is only a small number of prepositions in English. Some commonly used are at, from, in, on, and to. So what's the difference between at, in, on, and to? For example, when is your birthday? My birthday is on October. My birthday is when are you going to Manila? I will be going to Manila on September, like that. Or I will be attending the party at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So specific yung at. Okay. All right, next slide. Quick tip 17.2. If you can put a word in one of the empty slots in one of the following sentences, the word is a preposition. I walked blank to the table. So ano ang pwede nating ilagay dyan? I walked across the table, or I walked beside the table. Yan. It happened it happened along that time. It happened meron kasi yan sa book So that will be your homework. What will be your answer for that? It happened blank that time. Okay. So this is about preposition kung 17.2. Next is conjunctions. Quick tip 18.1. There are 3 common coordinating conjunctions in English. Andyan na po si Sir Billy.
Dito na, ma'am.
Andyan na. Okay. So andyan na si Sir. Sir Moises, how many more? Can you view the... Madami pa siya. So, okay. I will be asking Sir Moises to send this PowerPoint to you. And meron din naman tayong book, 'di ba, na send na. So you can review. Meron din pong exercises doon. Tip lang po 'yan So I'm sure you can read it with comprehension. Mga ano naman na tayo, mga collegiate na tayo, and parang review lang siya. Kung meron lang tayong mga agam-agam at mga violent reaction, you can just send your questions sa ating GC. Okay, so thank you so much, and I will just be posting what will be our homework. Okay, thank you so much for this class tonight, and may I ask, sino kaya ang pwedeng mag-closing prayer sa atin? May I ask Pastor Archie for our closing prayer?
Okay po, ma'am. Tayo po ay manalangin.
Salamat po. Panginoon namin na makapangyarihan sa lahat, amin pong itinataas, pinupuri, dinadakilang yung pangalan sa opportunity na inyong ipinagkaloob sa amin na kami po ay matuto sa amin pong skills ng English language upang ito ay ma-enhance at magamit namin sa amin pong paglilingkod sa inyo, Panginoon, na madala po kayo namin sa mataas na antas ng amin pong paglilingkod sa inyo, Panginoon. Marami pong salamat sa amin pong profesor na nag-share ng kanya pong knowledge and skills. Salamat din po, Panginoon, na kami din po ay natuto. Purihin po kayo, Panginoon, sa gabing ito na marami po kaming natutunan sa aming mga profesor na nag-share ng kanilang mga knowledge. Salamat po sa lahat. Ito po ay aming hiling at inadalangin sa inyong tagapagligtas Kristo. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you po. Thank you.
Amen.